My cat's trying to drink my coffee. That's the last thing he needs. Welcome back to the graveyard, everybody. My name is Mads, and I promise you, I'm working on alternative content right now. I've swiftly and unintentionally become a political content creator, but my subscribers have also been going up since I started making content like this, and what that tells me is that a lot of you want to learn more, which is good because I pride myself on being an educate, not hate kind of content creator. I want to talk about mainly the mess of an address that Trump gave the other night. I needed a day to process everything. I hope you guys can understand that because just wow. And 90 minutes of a narcissistic hype train. Now, since I do not desire to shave 5 years off of your lifespan, I am not going to force you to sit here and watch that entire nonsensical speech. Instead, we're going to take a look at a fact-checking article by NBC News, and I'm going to go bullet point by bullet point, explaining what they're talking about, what was said in that particular segment, and hoping that you can understand why some of this was more dangerous than people think. Also, there's some elements NBC News left out that I also wish to discuss because I think they're really vitally important. So before we get into the NBC News article, there is a couple things I really need to talk about. Because man, did they piss me off. The first thing is the fact that 90 minutes, no president in United States history has ever talked to joint Congress for that long. And that wasn't a good thing. Now, if he was actually discussing stuff that the American people have been saying they're struggling with, he was actually offering solutions to problems right now, I'd give him a little grace and be like, okay, that was a bit long. It wasn't really necessary to take that long discussing it, but I guess it was important. No, I am telling you, I feel confident in saying off the top of my head that a good 35 to 40% of the whole beginning of his speech was a narcissistic hype train. It was literally just him being like,
I'm the greatest president ever. I love me. I love me. I kiss the picture of myself on my shelf every night before bed.
that's pretty much what the entire first 30 minutes of this speech were. So those are totally unimportant for you. They were just obnoxious. Now, something interesting did happen. A lot of people have been saying they've been really frustrated with Democrats in Congress because, for the most part, many of them are just sitting on their hands going, well, what can we do? What do we do? What do you want us to do about this? Like, we know it's unconstitutional, everything he's doing, but we don't want to get in trouble. We don't want people to be mad at us. So nothing's getting done and no one's helping from the inside. Yes, protests help. Yes, boycotts help. But at the end of the day, there's only so much just random everyday American citizens can do. Congress needs to buckle down and do their job. And we saw that in action. This is a double-edged sword. So I'm going to show you a video of Representative Al Green of Texas and what a absolute fucking badass this man is.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House and to cease any further disruptions. That's your warning. Members are engaging in willful and continuing breach of decorum, and the chair is prepared to direct the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order to the joint session.
Now, if you have watched past presidential addresses to joint Congress, you may be saying to yourself, wait a minute, just about every time Biden spoke to joint Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Boebert, anyone who's super MAGA was equally as loud as Al Green, if not infinitely louder. I mean, there were a couple points that those two popped off so badly, I had to turn on my subtitles because I physically couldn't hear Biden even though he was screaming into a microphone to be heard over them. There seems to be, one key difference here. Can anybody, tell me what the difference between these two pictures are? Just saying. I know some people are gonna be like, oh, you're going over the top with this, like you're seeing issues that aren't really there, but this is a pretty fucking racist Congress we have, and it's a pretty fucking racist president, so wouldn't be surprised. Also, it's just struck me as interesting the way Trump chose to have him ejected. He tried to humiliate him. He You see that face? Any of us who were bullied as children know what that face is. That's the face of the bully who finally has their victim stand up to them because they're done with the bullshit. And as a result, the victim gets attention instead of the bully, and the bully gets pizza party. That's that face. That's what was on Donald Trump's face as Al Green was ejected from the room. He was trying to make an example of him and be like, anyone who's my detractor, anyone who speaks against me will be punished. What happened to Land of the Free exactly? Land of the Free, so long as you're obeying everything that your Lord and Savior tells you to do. And the other thing that I have seen a few people mention, but a lot of mainstream news sources seem to be afraid to go this far. I'm not, though. He's created a hoe with nothing to lose, so I really don't care if I upset him or his cronies. He exploited children, multiple children during this address, and it was frankly disgusting. I was watching a couple of people on live streams that are mutuals of mine on TikTok throughout it, and everyone unanimously was like, this is disgusting. And I don't know how more people aren't discussing and speaking out about this. I don't know how Green was the only one who stood up and was like, this is fucked. What is happening? Especially once the children were involved. Now, children can be involved in politics. There is a time and a place for it. For example, if we're talking about something like school lunches being too damn expensive and children literally starving for the 6 hours they're expected to maintain focus on their subjects, we can bring children into politics when we're talking about school shootings. This kind of thing is when it's appropriate to bring children into politics. Not when they're used as political pawns to try to make you look like everybody's messiah. Oh, and by the way, he had a messiah complex. He said that during the attempted murder where he barely had his ear grazed, that God saved him for a reason. And I was just like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Really? God saved me for a reason. God took a fucking nap and accidentally left the world on autopilot and went, oh shit, when he got up a few hours later. That's what happened. Like, the NPCs went a little hog wild while Daddy fell asleep at the controller. But the children being used really pissed me off. So he was going over the top, using the family of the man who dove on his family and everyone to, keep them from getting shot during what happened in Butler, PA. He used that grieving family to further his messiah complex. He could have stopped it, and I would have actually considered it respectful if he had said, I'd like to welcome the family of this man, because regardless of his political affiliation or yours, that was a heroic thing to do. Point blank, period. That was a heroic thing to do, to put his life on the line to ensure other people were not harmed that day. Objectively good thing to do. He could have invited them up and been like, I would like to award your father with a posthumous medal, of heroism or whatever he wanted to do for what he did, because I want to encourage my fellow Americans to always do the right thing, even if it seems like the scary thing to do. And then let the family make a little speech if they want to. That would have been completely appropriate. I would have had no problem with that. Of course, that's not what he did, though. He used it as a building block to talk about the fact that he was saved that day for a reason, and then talk about himself for like 20 minutes nonstop. He also used a child with cancer. And when I say that, I'm sure you're going, oh, well, that could be good because America has a broken healthcare system where people have to decide between eating, having groceries, or paying their medical bills. So maybe it was about that. Maybe it was about Medicaid. Maybe it was about the fact that we need to fund the stuff that's, going wrong more, especially since his administration is the one that's defunded research for childhood cancer. How interesting, the timing of this. To be honest, I have literally no idea why he invited this kid at all, besides, again, to make himself look amazing and wonderful to the MAGA heads, because all he did was invite this kid up and go, Oh, well, he's always had a dream to become a police officer when he's older, so I'm deciding to make him an honorary Secret Service member. Sorry about the sudden lighting change. I'm on my webcam right now because upon further reflection, I realized I actually do know why he chose to do this. When we were all watching it live together, it seemed really weird and out of left field. But while I'm editing this video, I'm looking at the transcript of the entire speech. I'm sorry to whoever had to record that, by the way. And I figured out exactly why he did this seemingly out of nowhere. Because right before he announced this child, he mentioned something he wants Congress to pass into law that was incredibly unpopular and incredibly dangerous and upsetting. And I'm going to read to you that part of the transcript. I've already signed an executive order requiring a mandatory death penalty for anyone who murders a police officer. And tonight I'm asking Congress to pass that policy into permanent law. I'm also asking for a new crime bill, getting tougher on repeat offenders while enhancing protections for America's police officers so they can do their jobs without fear of their lives being totally destroyed. They don't want to be killed. We are not going to let them be killed. And literally right after that is when he announced that child. So basically, he knew, since that potential law I just read to you is also a part of one that says that if you are at a protest and a police officer is killed, you will automatically potentially get the death penalty. That's what he wants. It doesn't matter if you're the one who killed the officer or not. Doesn't matter how the officer got killed, you'll just get the death penalty. That is extreme as fuck. And it's wrong and it's unconstitutional. And he knew that everyone's going to be erupting into boos and getting angry. So he used this child as a meat shield for himself. He knew that the Democratic congressman had enough of a heart to not try to frighten a child in the room. Now, the last thing I want to discuss before getting into the NBC article is it was tough. So I had originally been watching this on my television and I had just had it on a live stream. Around the time that what I'm about to discuss happened was when I had to turn it off and turn on a live stream of someone watching instead because I could not take another minute without background noise or I was going to explode. He used a transgender child. He brought up a child, and you could tell by the backstory and the way the kid looked that they are miserable. The guy I was watching, Hawk's podcast is his name on here. If you're interested, he goes live every Wednesday night and talks politics and stuff. And he was like, I am ready to call CPS for this kid.
And her husband, while encouraging her daughter to use a new name and pronouns.
The school secretly transitioned their daughter from female to male without the parents knowing about it and encouraged their daughter to use new pronouns and a new name. Oh my fucking God. Are you fucking kidding me?
Did that come with an operation too?
If somebody knows who those parents are, can you please call CPS?
Was that like a lunchtime
I'm worried
operation?
about that kid. Can you imagine what that kid's home life is like? I got invited to the State of the Union address because I'm trans and my parents fucking hate me because I'm trans, and that's why my mom got invited to the State of the Union.
Fired up, man.
Fuck this, man.
This is horrific. Like, I've never been more uncomfortable in my life watching something. This child is miserable. Because he was basically saying, he was furthering this stupid idea that the school was trying to trans the child against the parents' wishes, and the parents were such heroes for not allowing the school to do that. So he admitted to the nation this child's parents hate the idea of the kid being happy so severely that they willfully did not allow the child to be who they truly are. This child is just trapped in the wrong body, with the wrong pronouns, wrong name, everything, until they can get away from their parents. And now they're being used to further this idiotic lie that the Trump administration has been telling people. So now that all that's out of the way, we can finally get into the article. So like I said, this is a fact-checking article, and I think this shit is really important. And not just when it comes to Trump, although he is the liar in chief. Whenever we have any president, I don't care if they're the best president that this nation has ever seen in American history, they should always be getting fact checked because they are human beings capable of error and they can get things wrong. It's a job that requires basically minimal skill. You don't have to have any experience in being in the government to be president. That can cause a lot of mishaps to happen. So, if you have nothing to hide, you should have no problem with people fact checking you. I have no problem with it. I'm aware that I have to like rapid fire put these videos out sometimes to keep people informed. And if I ever get something wrong and you can prove it with tangible facts and evidence and data and statistics, by all means, leave it in my comments. I'm not offended by that at all. If I get something wrong, I want you to tell me so I can fix it later on or so people can have the correct information. No problem with that at all. He only hates when people do it to him because he knows he'll be caught in a lot. All right, so the first thing they discuss is the economic issues. The fact check says, are millions of people older than 100, including some older than 160 years old, collecting Social Security? Yes, he actually fucking said that. He tried to claim that, oh, we found all this corruption in the government and as part of the big economic crisis right now, there's people who are like 200 years old collecting Social Security. Obviously, I probably don't have to tell you, this is false. It says, Trump said, quote, we're also identifying shocking levels of incompetence and probable fraud in the Social Security program for seniors. This is false. Trump alleged in his speech that millions of senior citizens over age 100, including some he maintained were older than 160, were collecting Social Security checks according to Social Security Administration data. Yeah, he just kept going on. And of course, no statistics at all to share with the class. He just kept on making up random numbers. And that's another hilarious thing that happened when it came to stuff like economics and stuff. Within 5 minutes, he would change the number. You could catch him doing it during this all happening live. And I was like, didn't he just get done saying another number? And my wife was like, yup. He also alleged that several people older than 220 years old were still getting checks, according to SSA data, and that one person is listed at 360 years of age. Social Security in the United States has only existed since 1935. Explain to me, please, how a 360-year-old dead person would be collecting Social Security checks. Also, it's virtually impossible for that to happen if you understand anything about how Social Security works. For one thing, to even apply for Social Security benefits as a senior citizen, because of course he forgot that disabled people also collect it. You have to fill out forms. You have to prove your age. You have to prove that you are eligible for those benefits at all. Hi, baby. And once someone dies, the funeral home notifies the Social Security Administration. They are aware that you have passed on. Therefore, your benefits will stop. This isn't one of those things where your family just inherits your Social Security benefits right away. They know you're gone. No more checks. Checkies gone. Fact check. Under whose watch did egg prices spike? Because, of course, the egg price thing was all he cared about. And benefit of the doubt, devil's advocate for any president, the president usually has very little bearing on the economy. Whenever a president runs saying that they're going to fix the economy, they're a filthy fucking liar because there's little they can do. That is up to Congress. Congress needs to draft and pass laws that say things like Anti-Inflation Act. Otherwise, it's out of the president's hands entirely. Apart from tariffs, that part of it is 100% his fault. Trump said, quote, Joe Biden especially let the price of eggs get out of control, and we are working hard to get it back down. This needs context. No fucking shit. The egg price thing is ridiculous to me. A lot of this comes down to bird flu. Even before dumbass in chief got into office, there was little anyone could do about it. Bird flu happens sometimes. It caused a bunch of the birds to die, which means there's less eggs, which means that they have to charge more for them to make a profit. That is it. That's it. It's true that egg prices spiked during Biden's presidency as inflation rose steadily. The average price of 1 dozen grade A eggs peaked during the Biden administration in January 2023 at $4.32. It eventually retreated, falling to less than half of that by late 2023. According to that government data, however, the average price of 1 dozen grade A eggs peaked this January at $4.95, a month in office that Trump shared with Biden, a product of the growing transmission of bird flu amongst chickens. Like I just said, there's literally nothing anyone can do about it, unfortunately. Stuff like this just happens. Bird flu, swine flu, hoof and mouth disease, all this stuff is things that have existed all throughout our lifetimes. It's nothing new, and it does affect food prices. Because if animals die en masse, you're going to have to charge more for whatever food they were creating for people. That's just what happens. I'm also here to tell him right now, economically speaking, eggs are the furthest thing from our mind right now. There's so many egg substitutes you can use. Usually they're infinitely cheaper these days than eggs. That is not the problem. We need affordable housing. We need landlords to stop demanding that we make 3 times the rent every month, demanding to see our bank statements, lifting the rent 90% out of nowhere, kicking people out with a month's notice, which isn't enough time to find a new home. We need to have better systems in place for people to buy their first home. So many people can prove from the cost of their rent that they would have no problem with affording a mortgage. It's the down payment and the interest that's so fucking hard right now. It's difficult to suddenly shit out $30,000 for people right now. But I can tell you right now, even I could afford the monthly payment of a house. Most people can. It's fucked that the system's working against us and forcing us to stay as permanent renters. So many of my generation and the generations beneath mine are never going to be able to own a home, and it fucking sucks. We had dreams too. Why aren't you talking about that? We need to talk about the overall food price inflation. It's not just eggs, it's everything. And most of it is stuff that has no place being as overinflated as it is right now. It's nothing that has been, impacted by a blight, a famine, animals dying, anything like that. It's just pure greed. We need to talk about people's energy bills. Regardless of how you have energy in your home, people were freezing to death this winter because they couldn't afford to turn their heat on because it was going to be a $300 bomb and they couldn't afford that. People are going to be having heart attacks and strokes this summer if it's as high as it was last summer because they won't be able to afford to turn on the air conditioning. That's what matters, not the fucking eggs. Fact check. Trump says car plants are opening up all over the place. Trump said, quote, "We're going to have growth in the auto industry like nobody's ever seen. Plants are opening up all over the place. Deals are being made, never seen. That's a combination of the election win and tariffs." I'm sorry if I have to do junk cuts here and there. He is incoherent as fuck, even in a quote. And I feel like I'm dying trying to read this sometimes. It's a beautiful world, isn't it? That along with our other policies will allow our auto industry to absolutely boom. I swear to fuck, that's how it's written. It's going to boom. Spoke to the majors today, all 3, the top people, and they're so excited. In fact, already numerous car companies have announced that they will be building massive automobile plants in America, with Honda just announcing a new plant in Indiana, one of the largest anywhere in the world. This is mostly false. I'm telling you, actually listening to us say this was much more painful than listening to me read it, and that was painful enough already. No automaker has announced a new plan since Trump took office and began instituting new tariffs. The tariffs are chasing most of them away because I know this is difficult for his tiny mind and the itty-bitty, less than pea-sized minds of the MAGA supporters to understand. But even if you buy an American branded car, there are European and Asian parts in it because we simply cannot do some of the things we outsource. A lot of your engines are from Germany. A lot of the small parts are from Asian countries. The assembly may happen here. The brand may exist in America and have been created in America. It may be sold in America. I promise your American-made car has non-American parts in it. And the tariffs have scared a lot of those companies away from setting up new shop here because they don't know what's going to come of that. They don't know how badly it's going to impact the money they make. So why would they? And there it is. Trump's move to impose a 25% tariff on all imports coming into the United States from Canada and Mexico could add thousands of dollars to the cost of each new vehicle. That's what I saw. It was somewhere in like the 5 digits of how much more expensive a new car would be. Thank fuck we got our new car when we did. We got it right in like the heat of the pandemic. And I'm glad we did that. We needed one. Our old one was due to die at any moment. It was like crapping on the side of the road left and right. And I can imagine how scary it is right now to need a new car with this going on. Immigration. Oh my God. He harped on fucking immigration for so long. And of course, most of it was just random bullshit racism. Who's really surprised by that, though? Raise your hand if you're surprised. You're a liar. Fact check. Trump claims illegal immigration destroyed Aurora, Colorado, and Springfield, Ohio. Yeah, it's fucking insanity. He was actually trying to claim that entire cities had been overtaken by dangerous illegal immigrants. Entire cities. Don't you think that would have been important enough that it would have caught nationwide news, if not worldwide news? The whole world would probably be very interested in dangerous illegal immigrants taking over whole cities in a powerful nation. Interesting that we didn't hear about that. Trump said, quote, Joe Biden didn't just open our borders. He flew illegal aliens over them to overwhelm our schools, hospitals, and communities throughout the country. Entire towns like Aurora, Colorado, and Springfield, Ohio buckled under the weight of the migrant occupation and corruption like nobody has ever seen before. Beautiful towns destroyed. This is false. That's why I just told you, like, it's fucking insanity. Also, it's hilarious whenever he tries to bring Biden into this equation and be like, oh, he just freely opened the borders. He said, I don't care what your past is, you come on in. Biden got panned a lot by people who voted for him because he was kind of an asshole to immigrants. And he sure as shit wasn't just flying people in. Legitimately, you can look up old content around this. People were pissed regularly with Biden for how he dealt with immigrants. Springfield and Aurora have long been some of Trump's favorite targets when it comes to examples of American cities he likes to nod to as being overrun by migrants, though he often misrepresents the situations there. And of course, at the end of this, it says police have found absolutely no evidence of any gang activity or any other corruption he claimed going on. Wow, it's almost like you just have to talk to the locals to get this information. Fact check. Is Canada, along with Mexico, to blame for the fentanyl crisis? Oh my God, speaking of, before we get into that, if you have not seen Trudeau's address to Trump, you need to go watch it. I have never seen someone so gracefully, eloquently, and articulately tell someone in a very, very professional manner, go absolutely fuck yourself with a screwdriver in the deepest well in America. It was amazing, honestly. And my personal favorite part of it was when he told Trump to basically take accountability for his own issue when it comes to the fentanyl crisis. He's like, we didn't do that. You did that to yourself. And there's statistical data to prove that. While fentanyl comes across the border from Mexico in significant numbers, Canada is hardly to blame for the crisis. In the 2024 fiscal year, fentanyl seizures at the northern border were just 43 pounds. That is nothing, guys. Wow, there's probably more than that in the city I fucking live in, according to Customs and Border Protection data. Meanwhile, more than 21,000 pounds of fentanyl were seized at the southern border during the same period. And yes, that is a problem. If that much of it is somehow getting over the border and managing to kill American citizens, that sounds like an us problem. Because how in the hell is it getting through? How are you not checking these people well enough to realize they have this much if it's that much of a crisis? Use your critical thinking. Fact check. Trump says many migrants who entered the country the past 4 years were criminals, which again makes no fucking sense. Have you ever in your life gone through customs before in any country? It can be fucking terrifying the first time it happens because they question you on anything. If their little beacon goes off, even because they think you've extended your stay a little too long, You are going to be essentially interrogated. I was held for over 12 hours when I first went to the UK just because one lady had it out for me and didn't like how long I was staying, even though it was well within the legal means. It's not easy to get in here. Also, a lot of criminal activity wouldn't allow them over the border. They will see that. They'll see that on their passports when they're trying to get in and go, no, you committed a violent crime. You're not allowed here. More than 118,000 migrants with criminal backgrounds were apprehended at U.S. borders during the Biden administration, a small part of the more than 14 million migrant encounters. There have been instances of migrants found to have criminal records from their home countries after they've entered the United States, but there's no evidence to support that it is widespread. Yeah, I mean, the numbers tell you that much. The Trump administration has frequently cited the presence of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua in the United States and the high-profile killing of the Georgia nursing student Laken Riley last year by a Venezuelan national who entered the country illegally in 2022 as indication of widespread crime. And I'm tired of them using poor Laken Riley. Yes, what happened to this person was horrible, and she deserved justice, any justice in any form that can come in. But all they have is Laken Riley. Every time they want to bring up how dangerous immigrants are, all they can turn to is Laken Riley. And I'm like, without mentioning Laken Riley, tell me about what these dangerous gangs are doing. Can you show me? Show me who all. Show me the list, a database of all the people who have been killed by violent migrants in this country this year. I'd love to see it. Stop mentioning Laken Riley. Let this poor girl rest in peace already. Fact check. Is Trump responsible for the lowest numbers of illegal border crossers ever? Trump said, quote, "Since taking office, my administration has launched the most sweeping border and immigration crackdown in American history, and we quickly achieved the lowest numbers of illegal border crossers ever recorded." This appears to be true, but questions about the specifics remain. It is unclear whether Trump is speaking about border crossings, encounters, and/or apprehensions. According to Customs and Border Protection data from 2000 to 2019 that compares apprehensions across the various sectors by month, the month with the fewest crossings was recorded in April 2017 at 11,677. CBB says from January 21 through January 31st, 2025, the number of U.S. Border Patrol apprehensions along the southwest border dropped 85% from the same period in 2024. Trump claimed last month on Truth Social, quote, "There were only 8,326 apprehensions of illegals by Border Patrol in the U.S.-Mexico border." So once again, even when he says something that can be at least somewhat proven true, he always lacks a lot of the background you need to understand it. He leaves parts out to make himself sound better than he is. And that kind of thing going down isn't necessarily just due to him, guys. Because again, Biden wasn't exactly great when it came to immigration. Don't you think maybe it's a combination of that stuff and people just being scared to come here now because of deportation? That's horrible. Now you get to the health stuff. This was a fucking mess. Prepare to be offended as hell. If you're not offended as hell by this section, I don't know what to tell you. You need to think about that. Fact check. Trump says more children are being diagnosed with autism. Trump said, quote, "As an example, not long ago, and you can't even believe these numbers, 1 in 10,000 children had autism. 1 in 10,000 children, and now it's 1 in 36. There's something wrong. 1 in 36, think of that. So we're going to find out what it is. This needs context. So many of us have been mentioning to people like him and the people saying like vaccines cause autism and we need to eradicate autism and cure autism, that one, you can live a perfectly happy and successful life as an autistic person. Hello? It's eugenics you're talking about when you want to eradicate it. Autistic people deserve a say in whether or not we're going to be eradicated. Thank you very much. I love not being a part of a conversation that deals with a part of me disappearing. It is who I've been my entire life. It's all that I know. I am fine with it. Why aren't you? It can create its own set of unique challenges, but so can anything in life. And I deal with those challenges head on as they enter my life. I'm fine. I'm happy. I'm successful. Leave us alone. On top of that, no, it's not that there's more people with autism now. It's that it was horribly underreported for a very long time for a couple of reasons. One, that people were using things like Asperger's syndrome, which was from a literal Nazi, to try to say, oh, Asperger's and autism are two different things when they are not. It's just a different form of autism. It's a spectrum disorder. You can lie on many different areas of the spectrum of autism. People also just weren't understanding that, no, you can't just textbook diagnose somebody. Everyone is different. You can line up 5 people in a room who all have autism and it will impact their lives in very different ways. Because again, it's a spectrum disorder. And on top of that, just like with ADHD, AFAB people were horribly underrepresented in the data for autism for a very long time because if they didn't match up perfectly with how it manifested in boys, they just weren't counted as people having autism. It was just that girl's quirky. Now we understand ADHD and autism work very differently in AFAB people than they do in AMAB people. So it's getting reported more now. Let's see what NBC thinks about this. Research suggests that much of the increase is due to increasing awareness and screening for the condition. No way, I was right. Finding the causes of autism is complicated because it's not a single disorder, scientists and experts have told NBC News. In addition, those scientists and experts have said they believe that people develop autistic traits because of a combination of genetic vulnerability and environmental exposures. International shit time. Fact check. Trump claims U.S. is spending much more on Ukraine than Europe. Trump said, quote, Europe has sadly spent more money buying Russian oil and gas than they have spent on defending Ukraine by far. Think of that. They spent more buying Russian oil and gas than they have defending, and we've spent perhaps $350 billion, and they've spent $100 billion. I'd love to know where those numbers are coming from with Europe as well, because I haven't seen that. And we have an ocean separating us, and they don't. And Biden has authorized more money in this fight than Europe has spent. This is just fucking weird. Also, what does the ocean have to do with anything? Like, do you think that if there's no ocean separating two countries, you can just walk to it? Just stroll on over to fucking Russia? What? This is mostly false. Yup. So, since 2022, the United States has allocated $114.2 billion in aid to Ukraine. And again, you can find the data and statistics on this number. Trump is correct in pointing out that Europe has spent more in oil and gas than is spent on military assistance last year, according to estimates from Center for Research and Energy and Clean Air. Oil and gas taxes account for a huge share of Russia's revenues each year. And again, it needs context. Why did they spend that? I'm sure they have their reasons. Instead of just making assumptions and trying to make our allies look bad, let's actually ask them what happened. Polling time, because oh my god, he's always on his bullshit when it comes to polling numbers. This is one of the areas where I was like, all right, I swear to fuck 5 minutes ago he said a totally different number. Why is he saying a different one now? This is weird. Fact check. Is the share of Americans who think the country's on the right track at a record high? Trump said, quote, for the first time in modern history, more Americans believe that our country is heading in the right direction than in the wrong direction. Well, nope, total lie. And honestly, even without seeing statistics and data, you should be able to tell that's provably false just by opening literally any social media or looking at polls run on mainstream news. Because yes, they have been polling this stuff, and even on like Fox and stuff, it's shown that he has a record low of approval ratings right now. Even your cronies know you're doing a fuck up. Trump appears to be cherry-picking a single poll result and ignoring a few strong numbers from early in Biden's term. While he doesn't cite his source, because of course he doesn't, it seems likely he's pointing to a recent Rasmussen report poll showing that 47% of Americans say on the right track. Rasmussen is a right-wing poll that regularly partners with conservative authors and outlets to sponsor its polling, and is controversial. The polling aggregation site 538 removed the poll from its averages last year over concerns about its partisanship and its methodology. You can't just use a single poll. You have to poll from multiple polls. Poll. These highs have been hit before. 47% said America was moving in the right direction in July 2021 poll from NPR. And just months earlier, Politico and Morning Consult poll found 51% of registered voters saying the country was going in the right direction. So, oh my God, they've actually liked other people better. They've liked the direction the country's going in the past better than this. That was all they had of it. There is so much more you can say for it, but like I said, I'll actually add my own TikToks I made on this matter before the end of this video because goddamn. But yeah, that's the mess this country's in. I'm still making alternative content. I'm still working on some videos for brand deep dives and stuff, but I have to stop and do this stuff every so often because I need to educate people. I need to make sure people understand what's happening in the country they live in. And a little bit of hope core is that a lot of the stuff his administration has been trying to put through is getting stomped out. The Supreme Court even sacked up for once and said no to him. So there is some hope. There is hope that we are going to actually move in the right direction in the nearer than further future. The only big problem that remains is that although a lot of the heinous shit he wants to get away with is getting snuffed out before it can even breathe its first breath. Also, as much as I loved highlighting Al Green, there was absolutely no excuse for the rest of the Democrats in Congress to not follow suit with what he did. Do you understand what a strong message it would have been if after he was ejected, all of them stood up, raised their arms, and started shouting the same thing he was shouting, and they all got ejected, so it was nothing but a room of Republicans? Do you understand how brave that would have been and what that would have looked like to the American people and our allies? But no, they turtled as always. I can only hope that they grow a titanium spine soon in the near than further future, and they actually do something to help besides just making TikToks going, "This isn't right and we don't agree with it."